On to this episode, we talk about Carter's mechanics
and do pull-down exercises to strengthen the rotator cuff.
Stephen Godani here at Top Velocity hashtag Pitch and Tips Show, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat at Top Velocity hashtag Pitch and Tips. Ask your question, we answered on the show. Snapchat's been going pretty good. If you haven't gotten on Snapchat, go check it out. I'm already looking right now, and I got to log back in. Been getting a good amount of guys coming in asking questions. We're glad to ask questions. At the same time, too, I think it brings up a good point. Guys, we love doing the show. We're kind of like public broadcasting, right, for baseball. We got one of the only free baseball instructional shows out there. Same time, too, we want y'all to know that if you want to more invest in us and come into our programs and buy our programs, you get way more information, you get way more time with us, and what you get is you get the programming. You don't just have like, okay, I'm doing Olympic lifts or I'm doing a weight training program or a heavy load program. We program it, loading and unloading in a better approach to make sure you keep making gains and you break through plateaus. That's the hardest thing in this, is getting through plateaus. The other thing too is you get all of our throwing drills and you get all of our mechanics and you get an understanding of how we teach that through our throwing drills. Even coming down here to 3X Velocity camps, I think would be the ultimate, because then you get to work with us and you get a full evaluation there. When you come here, we measure you, we measure your mobility, we measure your speed, strength, power. We look at your biomechanics, we break down your biomechanics, we measure those biomechanics and compare it to a pro guy. You get tons of video analysis in your drills. You get tons of time to just ask questions and understand how it works for you specifically. But as much as we're always going to keep giving you as much information as we can, you're still going to get so much more when you come into the program and you actually come to these camps and work with us. That's really where it's going to be more than just getting a little bit out of this. You'll get a lot bit out of it, which is what you need. And that's what we're hoping from you guys. So, but hey, if you want to actually have a little taste of that, I'm going to be in Houston, February 20th, 21st, Premier Baseball, the Legends, the Zone, doing a seminar. You can learn even more about it. I'm going to give even more insight into it. And then also too, March 26th, I'll be at Long Beach, California for a clinic. It's almost just like a camp, so I'd recommend you come into that. But let's get started. What's the question for today?
Carter Hoon asks, feel free to use this as well. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
So he wants us to break down his video. So I will post video of you somewhere here, okay, going through your delivery. So what I'm seeing, Carter, is I'm seeing too much front leg, okay? So if we're too dynamic and too aggressive with the front leg, it throws the hips open. It creates the hip rotation. And then the back leg gets caught dragging. It just gets pulled off the mound. And then what happens is you have a weight on your back hip dragging your back hip through, so your hip rotation is slow. This might feel really fast, but your hip rotation is slow. If you're gonna do a big leg kick, you better have a dynamic back leg to catch up with it. If not, then the back leg is just an anchor, slowing everything down. Your shoulder's still going with everything. So if you actually stop yourself at front foot and let your hips open, you see your shoulders right there with it. There's no separation. So the only way you're gonna separate is because our shoulders are already closed. The only way you're gonna separate is you gotta drive the hip through faster than the time the shoulder has to catch up. So when it's dragging, following the dynamic front leg, the shoulder's gonna just stick right with it. But if you peak at the last moment, boom, then the arm gets caught behind, and that's what creates the separation. Okay, so, so until you learn, and for you, I would wanna shut down your lift leg so you can load the back leg and learn to get more speeds out of the back leg and the hip and create this hip to shoulder separation. Until you learn to do that, it's just gonna be lift leg and the back leg's gonna be drugged through and everything's gonna sync up and you're never gonna accelerate your forces. Hip to shoulder separation is the best way to initially accelerate the forces of the lower half. That's really where we accelerate those forces, put more energy in the trunk, and then the arm has more energy to work with. What else did you see?
I saw it kind of almost looked like to me like a stand tall and fall, like where you got up high and then everything went down the mound and looked like you went fast, like moving everything down the mound. But like Brent's saying, like you just weren't loading into that back leg and using the back leg to accelerate you out of that. It just kind of goes right into the front foot strike. And then from there, it looked like you had like a pretty solid front leg. Didn't look like it drifted or anything, and you got over it and looked like good external rotation. And from there, it looked like pretty much what a big leaguer would look like. But from everything back in the drive leg, that's where you're missing. That's where you really got to learn how to load that drive leg and explode out of that drive leg into front foot strike, load everything back, and then launch everything forward. So,
and it's like that case study or that document at ASMI where they bring in 3 different case studies of separating high velocity, low velocity pitchers, and that one excerpt said your more high velocity, low velocity guys are more the same at the end of their delivery, their late arm movements, but early in their delivery they're more different in their trunk and torso movements. So you're going to find a lot of us are very much similar to releasing arm pass, or similar to big leaguers. We just fail in the lower half, we fail in the hip to shoulder separation, and that's really what gets more energy to the arm. Okay, so that's good. I hope that helps. I'm glad you guys sent in your video. You guys can send in more video. You're gonna find a pattern that typically low velocity guys have, and that's why if you read these case studies, you'll find that there's a big pattern of certain movements that are typical of low velocity guys that you're going to hear a lot if we keep looking at video, but I'm glad to keep looking at videos. So let's just move on to the next question.
Trey Craig asks, "Sup, Brent, are pull downs good for strengthening your throwing rotator cuff?"
Hey, pull downs, I'm assuming you're pulling lat pull downs or talking about lat pull downs. That's going to be lats. So your lats are a part of, they support internal rotation and external rotation. I mean, they work to accelerate and decelerate by pulling on the humerus, okay? So the lats are very critical for that, but it's not gonna be rotator cuff. That's a prime mover. Rotator cuffs, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. That's gonna be isolated more in purely external rotation work with light weight. If we tend to go too heavy, then we activate those prime movers because that's why they're there. So typically they say around 5 pounds, I think 5 to 8 pounds in your external rotation, internal rotation movements, you're gonna start wanting to use prime movers. So to isolate those smaller muscles, you're gonna have to use lighter weight. So I say typically around 3 pounds. So if you really wanna get in the rotator cuff, let's get in 3-pound weights in internal and external rotation, because this movement is what the rotator cuff is built for, to create that movement. Always understand that small muscles really help start the movements or initiate the movements, and the prime movers help power the movements. That's a good way of looking at it. Yes, we want the big lats. We want even a big pec, but we also want strong rotator cuffs and all that to work together. As far as the last thing I'd want to say is there's studies that show high velocity guys tend to use more lats. If you're going to get more good abduction, more external rotation, more trunk flexion, you're going to get into your lats more. Low velocity guys tend to use more rotator cuff, less separation, more adduction in front of the face, typically gets into the more rotator cuff. So yes, pull downs are great for pitchers, but if you're trying to isolate the rotator cuff, that's not a way to do it. You got to do that in what we call job training, or light dumbbell training, or tubing, stuff like that. Anything you want to add?
No, that's pretty good.
Cool. All right. If you haven't already, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @TopVelocity, #pitch tips, ask your question, #baseball tips, ask your question, we answer on the show. Also 3X Velocity camps. Check out the 3X Velocity camps, topvelocity.net. We'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Hold on, we them boys. We them boys.